Oh my goodness! Dragon Ball Super has made it so that things are, well and truly, heating up. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now you might be wondering what Dragon Ball Super has done specifically this time. Oh great, you could be musing. Masako and Haverock are conjecturing again, and pontificating as per usual. What kind of nebulous thing are we discussing now? Relax, my dear viewer. Today's topic is something that we feel is something that Super definitely needs more of. Some rather unusual and compelling lore that seems to have learnt from past mistakes and yet still remains true to the legacy of Dragon Ball Z, in the form of space pirates. So let's have a little talk today about the Heeters. Who are the Heeters exactly? Well, if you haven't been reading the manga, and I seriously recommend that you should by the way, it's pretty good right now, start from around chapter 67. The Heeters are the facsimile of Bojack and his crew in the main timeline. These people are the meat that brings the bread of the Saiyans and the condiment of granola together to make a rather tasty and interesting plot panini for us to consume. Can you tell I wrote and recorded this before lunch? Yeah, I think you can probably tell. One of the more unique, at least for Dragon Ball standards, groups of characters that we've got introduced to in the most recent saga, the Heeters are a very influential family of shady business aliens. It is easier to tell that they are a family because they are all shaded, dressed and booted the same way. Unstoppable, blue, and completely, this time, not taciturn. Oh well, 2 out of 3. Why these people are so interesting to us is that it gives some little hook to the past, before Freeza blew up planet Vegeta, as well as the other sections of space that we never got to see. Away from the antics of the Dragon Team because, hey, surprise, surprise, the universe just does not always revolve around the Dragon Ball show. While we were told about Frieza's landsharking past thanks to the plot, as well as the Daizenshu books, we haven't really seen much of that or the remnants of it recently, or barely at all. Instead of that, all we've gotten are flickers of it from the old Freezy pops like an old school evil self-obsessed and ugly tyrant would do. So as you can see, we are mostly told that he was a land shark, and thusly that part of Frieza's history is sort of lost. We really don't care about it. It's not relevant to the story today. It's not like Frieza's trying to sell Goku real estate at the moment. Ah yes, Goku, let me check you through the Space Zillow app for the best deal. Now when it comes to the Heeters, their business is obvious from the very start. They are savvy, legitimate business peoples. What they understand about the universe is that you need to know stuff to get ahead, for your legitimate business. They claim that intel and information is what really gives you power these days, and seemingly do not care about the whole being the strongest nonsense, believing instead in the importance of outsmarting and outsavvying your opponent. It makes sense, in a way. They know that Freeza is far stronger than them in the power department, as well as influence, and so the next best thing to do to try and make some dough and be reputable in this world is to talk the talk, barter, extort through data, know things. It clearly gets results, because that's actually pretty atypical for Dragon Ball baddies, even when you take into account the Heron space pirates led by Bojack, and even taking the likes of our favourite mad scientist into account. It's something that this arc of Dragon Ball is doing in spades, breaking the mold and giving various other tropes from other genres a go here. And for that, I respect Toyotaro and Toriyama. They're giving something else a try. Hey, at least they're giving it a go. The Heeters are also the ones that are connected the most to the previous saga. They were part of the initial connection from that arc to this current one, as they wanted 7-3, that's the bio-droid with the power sponge powers from the previous arc, so that may be to extract and use its information stored in its memory banks. They weren't planning to use his strength at all, well at least not yet, but rather what he had seen and processed. What he had seen was powerful, in the sense that those events could be used to the Heeters' advantage. And they have the honour of being the very first villains in the franchise who actually consider knowledge to be the true source of power. Not only do they learn about Zuno and what he can do, but they are very much aware of the Dragon Balls, the Moro Saga, and the Z Fighters without even meeting them. They've seen it all. Those guys did better homework than even Dr. Giraud did back in the day. They don't need to build fancy androids to counter against them, or make some kind of biomechanical amalgamation menace to take them down. No. They can just pay for the Dragon Team's services and give some cockamamie story. So long as Chi-Chi wants money, Goku and the Dragon Team are on their side. But that also makes you wonder why Bulma couldn't just simply give the Son family money to live on for all that Goku's done for them. Weird. We must reiterate, though, that these folks don't want to simply take over the universe like your archetypal baddie. They want to own it. They don't want to rule it, subjugate it, or tear it apart. They want to be the ones who are on the board, so to speak. You know, reaping the profits, indulging in the prestige. But let other people run the day-to-day stuff. They could just kick back and watch the money roll in, as well as maybe some residual reverence. Previous evildoers would have simply left a wake of destruction behind them. But the Heeters? No way. Where's the money in that? Instead, the Heeters would simply rebuild what other baddies had left behind, and sell them on for draconic prices. They did that with Planet Cereal after the Saiyans razed it to the ground. So while they do milk to heifer the Shugarians' need for a new home, they do at least give them some high-quality housing. I mean, come on, the Heeters may be greedy, but they do the job, and they do the job well, to the point that the occupants are happy with the outcome. They don't have any complaints with the Heeters, and they are pretty good at getting what they want, too. In a way, they're sort of the antithesis to Freeza, not only in the juxtaposition of their names, you know, Freeza, Heeters, but also down to the fact that they lay low and let their businesses grow unnoticed, away from the spotlight, while they get awareness of all that is happening in Universe 7 discreetly. Personality-wise, though, they aren't that new. That part is very much in keeping with the Dragon Ball Z mythos and the minion principle of the movies. We have the likes of Oil, who's the big, tough, stupid one, who's meant to ask questions for the sake of exposition and get himself beaten up by Granolah. Oh yeah, also making some food jokes while you're at it because he's fat. Then there is Macki. Her name is the most tricky to uncode, but it most likely comes from either the word firewood, Macki, or perhaps a ribbon or wrappable heater. That's a Makasuke heater. But I personally like to think it has something to do with an American company who's called Macki and they actually focus on heaters. Although it actually probably isn't the connection, but it is to me though. She seems to be the most crazy and daring of the group, the Maverick. She's your being who's a little bit like Harley Quinn almost. Stronger than Oil, but not the strongest of the group. She also seems to be the most enthusiastic of the lot. And of course, you could be the cynical one and out there and say, oh, she's just the eye candy. But honestly, I don't see that. She's interesting enough in terms of her character alone. You could put the fact that she's a girl aside. She's able to do the job with Oil and get the Saiyans on board through her expert acting. She does a lot of stuff, she's useful. Then there's the leader, Elec, the most cunning member of the quartet. He is the firm believer, and totally not based off of Hearts from Dragon Ball Heroes, that intel is more powerful than military power, and loves temperature puns at it. I like that. He seems to have also ambivalence towards Granolah. At times, he seems to be fond of him, in that he's endearing in some sort of way. He's a cute little distraction. But at other times, he considers him to be a nuisance when his revenge plans against Freeza start to overshadow his better judgment. And then there's Gas. And Gas is by far the most mysterious of the four. Not only did he defeat Granolah in his initial outing, and he didn't really get a chance to have another round 2, which is a Chekhov's gun by the way if you've seen one before, he's also the strongest and the shortest Heater. And we know how dangerous short characters in Dragon Ball can be. He also isn't very talkative and seems to be rather protective of his siblings. Also, there seemingly is a grudge between himself and Granolah specifically, almost as if this is not the first time they've fought. It's very clear though, that Gas and he will fight again, and round 3 could end up being pretty gassy. Now, let's look at their possible future. What can we expect from them going further into the story? Obviously, these guys are not happy that Granolah got all this power instantly, and while 3 years is not that long of a time to put up with him and his nonsense, it's still long enough to mess with their business in the short term. And for people who want to own things while laying low and not attracting overt attention, Granolah's current status is very troublesome. Even Elec is having trouble justifying keeping him around despite this history, And that's why in the series, we have him coming to the conclusion that the cons of Granolah outweigh the pros, and that Granolah therefore has to die, either by Freeza or something else getting in the way. Just get Granolah out of their business. He would ruin everything if left to run riot. They don't know if Granolah will come for them after he's dealt with Freeza, or something that he does might rebalance the universe as they know it, cause some of their enterprises to fail, or maybe some of their enemies and malcontents, really angry with the Heeters, might come back for them seeking revenge or seeking money or compensation. So they do something, which also seems like a certain novelty in the world of Dragon Ball. They plan to set Granolah and the Saiyans up on a collision course. Make them bicker amongst themselves. Exploit Granolah's hatred for Saiyans, eliminating both problems. This is a pretty clever thing, because they obviously know that Goku, Vegeta and the other Z fighters are very capable, because they know. They saw what they did to Moro, but obviously this isn't going to be the end. This is just the beginning of the story. In Chapter 71, the latest to come out as of this recording, we also saw the lengths that they were willing to go to in order to convince the Saiyans to come with them to planet Cereal, and there are two interesting things about this. First off, and foremost, as we've seen through 7-3's eyes, and Zamasu's before that, Zuno is not exactly the bravest being out there, and he can be threatened to give up knowledge, without having to be kissed in a rather sleazy and degrading way. What's more important though, is that the Heeters have seen the memory of the synthetic fighter, yet they decided that they will go for a more peaceful approach. An approach that was still admittedly pretty humiliating for Macki, but still, they didn't threaten Zuno's life. Even if they could, they played by the rules. Same goes with the Saiyans. Instead of simply kidnapping Chi-Chi or Bulma and trying to convince Goku and Vegeta that it was evil Granolah who did that, they decided to just pamper the Earthlings, pay them for their time. They don't care if Granolah and his opponents end up killing each other. That's admittedly true, but they at least believe in compensation and paying for the prestige. It's interesting, which makes me think that at least Oil and Macki are set to be redeemable in the future. Like maybe they see the light and realize that their eldest brother is getting a little bit obsessed about this. I mean, Elec, for sure, is using and manipulating his siblings, and I feel his concern over their well-being is more instrumental. He's starting to see them more and more by the day like tools, and less like brother and sister. If he is forced into a situation where he has to sacrifice one of his own siblings in order to close a big deal, we reckon he would go ahead and do it. But what are the Heeters' plans for the endgame? Well, either Granolah or Vegeta will face off against Freeza at some point, or they might bury the hatchet. Now, what might they do as well? Well, if we were betting, folks, they would either use Gas or 7-3, or perhaps both, against the combined forces of Granolah and the Saiyans. And by both, we may potentially mean literally both. I'll let you think about that. Then there's also the chestnut that Monaito, the old Namekian, has warned Granolah that stronger beings may appear post his wish, and this feels to us like some very heavy foreshadowing that something even more powerful is coming. Granolah was the strongest fighter at the time of his wish being granted, but after that wish, we had Goku and Vegeta training in their respective fields growing stronger, and Granolah, he just, from what we could tell, just sat on Cereal waiting for something to happen. We feel that Granolah is going to get rinsed and get frustrated, but that's for another video. And we don't think Elec would be beyond wishing on the Dragon Balls himself to empower his strongest sibling. After all, the Cerulean Dragon Balls can be used again and again, immediately after a wish has been made. So long as you can find them. And they can, because they have the Dragon Radar. We also have a feeling that 7-3 won't be sitting in that jar forever, and either will go full Ultron on his captors. We know that he does have some capabilities of emotions, despite what everyone claims, as in the Moro saga he did show concern over Shimoreka's well-being, his friend. And I'm even thinking that Elec would not be beyond using 7-3's bits and pieces to maybe upgrade his brother, in order to give him a fighting chance against Granolah and the Saiyans? Maybe to negate the monkey's paw effect that is wishing on Torombo? It's hard to say exactly at the moment. Whatever does happen though, we know that the Heeters are there to cause trouble, either for Granolah himself, or for our heroes later on. Still though, it's nice to at least have characters that rely on cunning and manipulation from behind the scenes, instead of just relying on basic brute strength or even magic with Moro. We are wondering though if any of the Heeters are going to make it through this saga in one piece, Are they all gonna die? Maybe we might have Oil and Macki surviving. Whatever the end game will be, they are a welcome addition to Dragon Ball's menagerie of evildoers, and we hope that they will show us some dirty tricks, clever ruses during their stay. One last thing though, we can't help but notice that at least Oil, Macki and Gas are being written in a way that doesn't make them completely unlikable. Elec to us seems to be the cunning mastermind, pushing his siblings towards doing evil things. Perhaps the saga might end with him being out of the picture, and Macki takes over the Heater gang and maybe makes their enterprises more wholesome, perhaps? But only time will tell. But what do you folks think? Do you like the Heeters? What do you expect them to do when Granolah gets beaten down by the Saiyans when they meet? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!